Hey folks, Colin here from Something's Recording, and today I'm going to show you one trick for a loud mix and a more balanced master. We're going to be talking about limiters today, but before we dive in, if you are ready to go a little bit deeper into the mixing process as a whole and really start to hone your workflow as an engineer, then I have just the gift for you. This is my 7-step mixing checklist. It is completely free, just a simple PDF, and it will guide you through the entire mixing process, step by step, to help you get professional and radio-ready mixes without the hassle and without the guesswork. Like I said, it's completely free, and you can download it below using the link in the video description. Now let's jump in here and take a look at this track. What we're going to be discussing here today is mixing through a limiter. So right from the get-go, you have your limiter on your stereo bus or on your master fader, and you have it set to increase the gain to equal kind of a commercial master. This gets you similar to a finished master volume right from the get-go, so there's no surprises and no little obstacles you have to fight down the way or when you send your mix to mastering. Let me show you what this sounds like and what this technique is all about. So we're going to come down here all the way to my mix bus. So everything's feeding into my mix bus here, and on my mix bus I have a limiter. This is a mastering style limiter. The settings are set for a finished master. So my ceiling's at -1, so nothing's going to go past -1. And then I have my gain here set at about 6.5 dB increase. So I'm bringing my track up to a commercial level or a finished master level. And that's there right from the get-go. This is a finished mix, but I have that plugin in right from the get-go. That's there when I pull the tracks in and start mixing. So I'm mixing through this limiter right from the beginning, so no sounds surprise me down the road. Let me play you what the track sounds like with this limiter in place, and I'll do an A-B, and you can hear the volume difference that we get with this 6.5 dB increase. So bear in mind, it's going to get quieter, and then the volume's going to jump back up.
Running and running, I've been chasing her around, but I can't pin this little dragon down. She gives me half of a sign, she wants me in her life, but I can't help thinking that I'm wasting her time. I'll never be the man she needs, so I say my calls and be a memory. Running and running, I've been chasing her around, but I can't pin this little dragon down. She gives me half of a sign, she wants me in her life, but I can't help thinking that I'm wasting her time.
You can hear our volume increase, but you can also hear how the track changes. And that's the advantage of mixing through a limiter from the beginning. Okay, we put our limiter on our mix bus here, and we add 6 dB. We push into this 1 or -1 dB ceiling, and it changes our track, brings our volume up to kind of an area of a finished master. And what that gives us is the opportunity to see how our track is going to sound at that level. That way, when we finish mixing and we send it off to mastering, or we master it ourselves and we bring that volume up, there's no surprises and the track doesn't change in a way that we have to deal with down the road. We know what it's going to sound like, or we have an idea of what it's going to sound like at the level of a finished master. So we can mix our bass accordingly, we can put our vocals in the right place, and we can get our balances set to sound good at that higher level, rather than at a lower level, 6, 8, 10 dB down, and then we bring up this massive volume change, right? And then the balances on our track change, and it's something we have to deal with and fight with in mastering, or come back to our mix and solve later. What we're going to do to illustrate this further is I'm going to pull this mix tool in after our limiter. I'm going to pull it down 6 dB, 6.5 dB. So we can hear not only the volume increase we're getting from this limiter, but you can hear how the track changes, albeit it's going to be subtle balance changes we're going to get from this limiter, but you're going to hear how the track changes, how the balances adjust by pushing into this limiter. We're only probably doing about 1, maybe 2 dB of limiting on the top notes, on the peaks on this track. But I want you to listen very carefully here to how the track, how the balances change, how the vocal changes, how the top end, or not the top end, how the peaks of our kick and snare change as we push into this limiter. So we're going to start with it in. Bear in mind it's going to be a little bit quieter here. We're going to start with it in, and then I'm going to take it out, and I want you to listen to what changes in our track.
Running and running, I've been chasing her around, but I
So there's a couple different things I hear when we kick the limiter in. Without the limiter, without that 1, maybe 2 dB of limiting that we're doing on the track and then volume boost, our vocal feels a little bit disjointed from the track. It comes out just a little bit too far in front of the rest of the instrumentation for me. When we kick that limiter in, our vocal takes a little bit of a step back. It sits in with the rest of the track and it ties our balance in for our vocal and our instrumental. So it's tying our instrumental and our vocal together. The other thing I hear is the other prominent character in our track is our snare, right? So we have our vocal and our snare drum. It kind of sits our snare drum in and makes it feel a little bit more solid throughout this passage in the track. That's what we're getting. It's probably because we're doing a little bit of limiting on our snare drum as it's pushing into this -1 dB ceiling. And the other thing I hear in comparison to the vocal taking a little bit of a step back is the instrumentation. So our guitars and keys take a little bit of a step forward. They get a little bit thicker on the side and it feels a little bit more like a finished track. I want you to take a listen one more time. So focus on our vocal, focus on our snare drum, and listen to our instrumentation in the stereo spectrum here.
Running and running, I've been chasing her around, but I can't pin this little dragon down. She gives me half of a sign, she wants me in her life, but I can't help thinking that I'm wasting her time. I'll never be the man she needs, so I'll say my calls and be a memory. Running and running, I've been chasing her around, but I can't pin this little dragon down. She gives me half of a sign, she wants me in her life, but I can't help thinking that I'm wasting her time. I'll never be the man she needs, so I'll say my calls and be
By having this limiter in right from the start of our mix, we get a louder mix because we're boosting obviously our entire mix by about 6.5 dB, but it also gives us a more balanced master at the end of the line because we don't have to deal with problems of our balances being off when we increase the volume in mastering, or things stepping too far out front, or things being too far in back, right? We have this limiter in. We can make sure that our vocals in the right place. We can make sure our snare, our kick and snare are nice and solid, and we can make sure our instrumentation, our vocals, or not our vocals, our guitars and our keys, our bass sit nicely in comparison to our lead vocal. I hope that was helpful for you. Like I said, if you are ready to take your mixes to the next level and really start dialing in your workflow as a mixer, then I have just the tool for you and it is completely free. This is my 7-step mixing checklist. You can download it using the link in the description below and start creating more professional mixes in less time. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.